Hello everyone, welcome to our weekly comic review video. I'm Jason,
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So every Tuesday after we're done bagging and boarding all the latest comics that have arrived at our store, Andy and I each select the ones that we care the most about, we think other people care the most about. It's probably about 20 to 30 of the
Yeah.
hottest comics of the week. We divide them up, we read them, and we tell you about what's in the comics. We try to do it spoiler free, spoiler light.
hmm
We don't want to take the joy out of reading these, but we will tell you if there's a major event in a book, if there's a first appearance, a major death, without giving you all the details.
hmm
Just reading the comic solicitations is just not enough.
Right.
You go in the store and you see all the covers and you're just like blown back with the choices. So we try to run the show in a way that when you go in your store, whether it's later today or tomorrow or later this weekend, you kind of know more about the books and which ones you want to pick up.
From firsthand experience,
Yes.
we're there checking them out, right, fresh, hot off the press.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we're not just telling you what you could have read somewhere else.
Yeah.
We've actually sat down and we've read these books. So it's going to be these ones you see and many others off to the side. So let's begin the show.
Yep. So starting off with a big one for sure this week, X-Men Trial of
Yep.
Magneto. So this is the big thing to come out of the Hellfire Gala. The big revelation at the end was they stumbled upon the dead body of Scarlet Witch. It's not a spoiler anymore. It was feels like 10 years ago now. But yes. So there is I forgot what made them think that it was Magneto initially, but he was kind of the last person to be seen with her.
Correct. Yep.
And so jumping into this, we pick up right after the kind of the day after the Hellfire Gala. And what's funny is we just had the series X Factor end. So this is the creative team, at least a writer coming on to this, but also the X Factor is a big player in this.
Okay.
They are, if you remember, the X Factor was kind of the ones who investigated mutant deaths and are these people eligible to be brought back on Krakoa. And so they are kind of the team that is best fit to investigate the death of Scarlet Witch. So this is very CSI investigative forensics in a very interesting way. The team that checks it out all have special abilities that do help them. So you have Dakin Wolverine, who can smell and track where the body has been, and then you have Eye-Boy, who can see on multiple spectrums and see the different fingerprints and all of that. It is, I don't want to say graphic in the sense of oh, it's so violent, but it's very forensics in, well, we can tell that she was bound and all of this. And so it kind of took me back a little bit in how in depth they go. But I gotta say, reading this, it doesn't look good for Magneto.
Huh.
I'm sure that's how they're playing
So,
it.
so it sounds like her death wasn't like quick. She wasn't just she was standing in the spot and a beam hit her and she just fell
No,
right on that spot.
there was, definitely you could tell she was dragged. There was all of this
Huh.
stuff, which is very kind of uncomfortable to see that, but it definitely sets up there was a motive to this, and there was, certain things used, and so that's really interesting. Of course, Magneto is kind of denying it, and he is a big advocate of bringing her back. Now, this is kind of the other part of the book is the council on Krakoa with Cyclops and usually Magneto, Emma Frost, Nightcrawler. They're all trying to decide, should we bring her back? Now, a thing that maybe a lot of newer readers don't know is that they kind of set Scarlet Witch up as not being a mutant. Her backstory is kind of all over the place, but they say that Cerebro was kind of faked enough thinking that she was a mutant that they do have a backlog of her consciousness,
Huh.
like they do all the mutants.
Right.
But it's old. It's an old kind of file save that if they were to bring her back, it would be, from way back. And they bring it to a vote on should they bring her back or not. So this is a very interesting thing I didn't think about either. You would just think, oh yeah, we'll bring her back. You can do that.
Right.
But they do discuss, she has brought a lot of also bad things to the mutants.
Yeah.
She essentially wiping out 99.9% of the mutants during House of M. Yep. So not everybody's for bringing her back. So this sets up a really interesting back and forth about, is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Who did it? Why did they do it? So I think we have a really interesting story on our hands. It's going to be 5 issues long. You also find out what do Scarlet Witch's siblings think about this. She has quite a few either kind of step brothers and sisters and Quicksilver. What do they all think about it? So definitely interesting. I'm very interested to see where it goes and what comes out of it. But it's not like, oh, she's not really dead. Like, it's like they have her body, and I think that's another good thing is like that part is not left up wondering, oh, was this Mystique? Was this something like? No, they have that. Huh. But I will say, of course, there is a twist at the end that sets up a whole bunch of new stuff that I think people will be very interested in. So
all these mutants, and none of them can just like look into the past, like to see who did it or whatever.
Well, also, an interesting thing is brought up is Jean Grey is there, and at one point Magneto is unconscious for one reason or another, and they're like, just go inside his head and find out if he did it or not.
Right.
And she's like, okay, this is going to be kind of hard. I'm going to need extra help. But what she sees is nightmares, and nightmares are untrustworthy. So she just sees a bunch of chaos and skulls and all this stuff being like, in the state he's in, I don't know if we can trust whatever I'm seeing. So they cover all their bases to set up this mystery where you couldn't just solve it right away.
I mean, I figured. I mean, it'd be too easy. Also, I'd say this would have been the best time if Marvel could work together with Image to have a Chew crossover. Oh, this is the job, for Chew, for sure.
So, great first issue. I'm very interested to see where it goes. And it feels like they are setting up what I still feel like is coming is a big division in the X-Men between differing ideas of what should and shouldn't happen with the mutant population. So really cool first issue and really cool variants for this. So I mean, one of the best variants we've seen in a while. This is the Mark Brooks variant. Then we have, of course, our Todd Knock headshot variant. Another one looking real angry at you. We have...
He's getting ready for prison. He's got to get that prison look.
We have the Art Germ. The Momoko. There's a lot of these. We've got... I love this one. This one kind of flew under the radar, but it's such a good one. This is the Torque variant. It's just very striking when you see it in person.
I remember when we showed down Comics from the Future, I was like, wow, Torque. I haven't seen a really good cover from Torque in a while.
We have the Ramita Jr. with Magneto with his bad back problems, hunched over. And then we have some of our incentives. So this is called the spoiler variant, and I'll tell you, seeing this will not spoil anything. After reading it, this is kind of a no-brainer that this character would make an appearance. But this is the 1 in 25 Finch spoiler variant. I mean, it's... Of course, other people would find out about the death of Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, that's going to be big news.
You know, they even talk about... Yeah, they talk about, like, okay, we've got to inform the Avengers. Because, you know, she was a member of those. And so, Vision.
What are we selling that one for?
We are selling this one for $20. It's a great Finch cover, too. Really nice.
Obviously, homage.
Yep. And then, finally, we have the 1 in 50 hidden gem variant by Greg Capullo. And this is, we're selling for $35. Really cool classic of Magneto.
Okay, so I'm going to start things off with another major Marvel comic out this week. I talked a lot about this back when we did the Comics from the Future on it because I got to read an advanced copy. This is Kang the Conqueror #1. This is a 5-part series. So look at the subtitle of it on the bottom. This is the story's sort of 5-issue title. It says, "Only myself left to conquer." And you can see there's an hourglass. Makes complete sense for Kang. But who is that in the hourglass? He's dressed like Kang, but he looks a lot younger. Now, of course, from the solicitations, they tell you some things, which I will get to. So Kang, his real name is Nathaniel Richards.
Mm-hmm.
He is from the 31st century. And in this, you get to see him as a young man. You know, it starts with him, I believe he's about 18 years old. And you get to see where he's from and what's that's like. And what I think is interesting is usually when we see where villains are from, it's some apocalyptic,
Yeah.
T-1000 hellscape or something. That's not the case with Kang. Kang's actually from a very nice place. In fact, it's so nice it might be just a little dull for somebody who wants to do something.
Yeah.
But so the beginning's pretty interesting, reading sort of the place that he's from. You get to see what finally motivates him to leave where he's at, because where he's at, it's very nice. So as you probably expect, and as the solicitation says, this younger version of Kang runs into, well, not exactly runs into, an older version of himself comes to him, okay, for certain reasons, and has certain things that he wants to teach. So what's interesting, and this is very difficult, I'd imagine, for a writer to balance, is how do you balance the same character dealing with themselves?
Mm-hmm.
You know, one is younger, one is older. Well, that has to do with all the experiences they've been through.
Yeah.
You know, so these are two very different Kangs, both in personality and in emotional depth. So you're going to watch as the one from the future takes the younger one through different time periods to show him things. And this isn't just like a Christmas Carol. This doesn't happen in one night. This happens over a long period of time. And all this is just in the first issue. The question is, all these things that the older Kang is trying to teach the younger one, is it going to work? Is it going to change him? Why would he want to change himself? I mean, if it really is him, wouldn't I'm thinking like Back to the Future logic here. Wouldn't those experiences get messed up?
They're fading from a photo.
If you meddle with them. But, does the young Kang also want to become the older him?
Yeah.
That's another question that comes up. So this just scratches the surface of all the stuff that's in this first issue. This is a very ambitious first issue. I've read it. The first time I read it twice before I talked about Comics in the Future, and I read it a third time today. And it's neat, all the little things that I was more catching on to and trying to grab onto. So this is one of my favorite issues this week. I had trouble picking one favorite. Usually I have one that's just my ultimate favorite. I think I have 4 this time that I'm like, this I don't know, they're all in the running. So this is one of them. I kind of want to read the second one before I know how much I like this one, because this one's so ambitious. I need to kind of see where it goes next. So that's what I can say about it without revealing too much. But what excites me is by the end of this series, maybe we're going to learn some of Kang's ultimate motivations throughout his life. Because most of the time that you meet Kang in comics, he's already this ultra powerful being who is doing, reality changing, universe changing things.
Because he knows better. He knows better.
Correct.
He knows how to make a better future than what you're doing.
Yeah, so I want that curtain pulled aside, and that's what this is about. It is about the younger Kang ultimately. And you'll see that more clearly when you get to the end of this issue. So we got a few variants to show off. This is the Patrick Gleason variant.
And it's also cool because I think all these variants are different time frames too, with like different Avenger teams and everything.
Yeah, a lot of artists having a lot of fun with this one. Here is the Peach Momoko variant.
Some characters on there looking familiar if you watched Loki.
And then we, of course, have to have the Scotty Young variant. Kang never looks so goofy. So goofy happy to
I
be
know
taking over the planet.
that's the one that looks so much like a Marvin the Martian. He's stuck his
I
flag
can
in the
see
little
that. You're right.
planet.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. So we also have a 1 in 50 Ryan Stegman variant that we're
So cool.
selling for $50. But wherever you shop, just want to show you what this looks like. Might be one to look out for.
You know, it's surprising that we haven't gotten this much Kang before. He's a character a lot of, longtime readers know, but he's a character if you ask him to explain, like, well, tell me about him. It's just like,
I have something to say on this. So even, I've read comics my whole life. I brushed up on Kang, and there is so much to brush up on. He is a very confusing character because of the time travel thing. I mean, even starting with Nathaniel Richards, well, isn't that a different character? Isn't that Mr. Fantastic's father? Go down that rabbit hole because they have sort of ironed most of it out at this point, but there's a lot of it to iron out.
Do you think they're going to be exploring that? Like, what are the different versions and what are the different...
I don't know. I'm not sure. To tell you the truth, I don't know what to expect going from issue 1. Issue 1 ended, I can't tell which way they're going with it, other than it is following the younger Kang.
Yeah. There's the Egyptian version, there's the one that is a descendant of Reed Richards, and one that's like his father, and there's so many, but...
The Nathaniel Richards that Kang is from the 31st century, he is, from what I understand, he's from a different universe than our Fantastic Four.
So just to make it confusing, you have time and space.
I wasn't even going to say this because it's so confusing. In his universe, Reed Richards' father, Nathaniel Richards, went there and he helped them out. And it made it where they never had a Dark Ages. And so then when he was actually born, it was later. And whoa, lots of stuff.
Yeah, well, let's sure hope that this helps all of us, Kang for Dummies.
They may be sort of pulling all his characters back into one. That makes it a little easier to move forward with him as a villain, maybe.
Especially with I think this is a good entry point for people when they watch the shows and the movies to go, hey, go read this. I think they always want one of those, like, essential reader books.
That is a good point.
Okay, so my next book is one that, I mean, when you hear the title, when I saw the title initially, you could already make up the story in your head. This is Eat the Rich. This is really interesting. This is a new comic from Boom by Sarah Gailey, and the art is by Pius Back, and the colorist is Roman Titov. I want to point that out because the art and the coloring is very important in this book. So, Eat the Rich, I mean, sure, everybody's already thinking, like, cannibals and...
Aerosmith.
Yes, Aerosmith. It's all about Steven Tyler. No, so it's pretty obvious seeing it that it does have some like cannibalism stuff in it, but it's actually about a character named Joy who is going to meet her boyfriend Astor's family for the first time. And she definitely feels like inadequate to visit them because he's telling her all this stuff about, oh, and I've got to introduce you to this uncle and this person. Oh, this person helped start this giant corporation. Like, this is the richest of the rich families. And she's going to meet them, and she's kind of panicking about it. And we get some backstory on the boyfriend, why, like, he left at a certain age from the family, and he stopped drinking, and he's kind of worried going back into this environment is going to re-trigger things. So it sets up an interesting thing, but already you get this, like, sense of dread, like you're going into the lion's den type thing. And of course we meet a lot of the family, his parents, but more importantly the help around the house, so the nannies and the gardener and all of that, and how they treat them. Kind of a don't look at them, don't talk to them, they're here doing their job. and Joy, who is, from maybe just your average household, uh, never had servants. She's like, oh, I'm going to talk to them. Like, I probably have more in common with them. But this opens up, of course, a whole different world of what's going on in this family. So
The behind the scenes look
a little
from
bit
the
behind the
servants.
scenes, or a hint of don't talk to us. You know, not
I
get out
see.
while you can,
Okay.
but very
Right.
interesting.
More muzzled.
Yes. So this is, I was reading this and I was like, okay, this is good. I feel like I kind of know where it's going. A lot of the beats were ones that I was expecting. That this family, they have their dark secrets and everything, but it all uh, culminates very interestingly towards the end when they are throwing a retirement party for their gardener. And this is where some elements were thrown in that I wasn't expecting and that are very odd. It's hard to explain it without giving away, but when you read it, you'll understand. Let's just say someone does a roast of the person, and it could be the most horrifying roast you've ever heard.
Hmm.
So just to leave it there, but I wanted to touch on the art. So the art is really good. It's you know it, this is not an action book, and so when you have a book that's not based on action scenes and all of that, you need people who can carry the different characters really well and the expressions and all of that, which I think is done tremendously well. But the colors are also great because our main character stands out in every room she's in. So when she's at a party, everyone is colored kind of a twilight pink orange,
Hmm.
and she is in blue. Like she pops. This does a great job of being like she doesn't belong here.
Hmm.
And when you read it, you'll see that that is so well done in that aspect that I highly, uh, I give props to the art team on this because they really, you feel that because at the beginning, I'll just mention this last thing, when they're driving to the family house, the colors are pretty evenly spaced across the board. Joy and her boyfriend and the environment and the car and all of that are each their own separate color. But when she enters this world, she now is the weird thing that stands out. And I thought that was so well done.
So yeah, that's cool because it lets you highlight but also isolate a
Very
character.
isolating. I mean,
Okay.
if anything, you constantly feel how she's like, this is not comfortable. I don't want to be here. But highly recommend this. I thought it was super cool. I believe this is also a 5-issue miniseries. And this is just prime for like an HBO series. It is such like you wouldn't need a big budget, but the drama behind it is so
Hmm.
cool. So we have our main cover, which you can see some of the family. Then, I mean, this book has some of the best variants also that I've seen. This is the Carrie variant with the skewer. Then we have, I mean, how could you go wrong with this? The Jenny Frizen variant, and this is our main character, and also in the dress she wears, where everyone wears a lot of solids, she wears a pattern that also helps it stand out. So I could do a whole like art breakdown of this issue.
It's a very cool dress
It
too.
is really cool. Um, then we have some of the incentives. So, and man, this also shows it really well. This is the 1 in 10 Del Duca variant, I believe, that we are selling for 15, but that is a lot of the coloring feel you get in this. Very isolated in a crowd. And the more you look at that cover, you start seeing some weird things going on. That one we're selling for 15. Then we have the 1 in 25 Frizen. Really cool. Kind of without, it's still got the some of the trade dress, but she's now in black
In
and
colors,
white.
yeah.
but you do still get the title at the bottom, which is pretty cool. We are selling that one for $30. And then, man, this one is awesome.
Yeah,
This
looks
is
great in
the
person.
1 in 50 that we are selling for $75. And if you notice, the title and her gloves are red foil. And it looks super cool in person.
Yeah.
So
I
think this is going to be one to definitely keep your eye on, because I feel like this is going to be a pretty talked about series from Boom.
All right, so let's get to a DC book now. So they are starting up the Batman Secret Files. I guess they already did the one with Huntress. So this is the second one from the
Third,
Batman.
they did also the Signal.
That's why this has to be a two-person team. So the third book in Batman Secret Files, Clownhunter, is dropping today at stores that release their DC on Tuesdays, tomorrow for every other store. A lot of what's cool about these one-shots is they're catching up with a lot of the Batman family characters you haven't seen in a while. Like the Signal, hadn't seen him a lot lately. Mm-hmm. Huntress has been in Detective Comics, but they needed to give her own thing. Clownhunter, we haven't seen a lot of since the Joker War. Mm-hmm. So let me tell you what this book is about. So you might have heard me say it is a one-shot, so it's a one and done. It definitely explores Clownhunter's past. There are two things that Clownhunter doesn't like: bullies and clowns. Bullies because he was bullied a lot in school, of which you will see in the flashbacks of his past. Clowns because a clown, the Joker, killed his family. Well, even with the Joker gone, there are gangs of clowns still in Gotham. Mm-hmm. They expect the Joker's coming back. They're doing their own criminal things. And so Clownhunter has plenty of work out there to be done. And he views these Joker clowns not just as clowns, but also bullies. So they're the two things he hates together. The other thing that this book really explores is why will Clownhunter kill, whereas Batman will not? We have seen other characters who will kill in Batman's universe, and they have clashed. The thing that makes Clownhunter different is he's so young.
Yeah.
He's such a youthful character that it's sort of tragic to see in Gotham, a place where Batman's had so many reasons to finally kill the Joker or kill somebody, that he holds back. There's the one line he won't cross, yet this kid already has, even though he has such a similar past to Batman. So in this book, it's pretty brutal what happens. Clownhunter is put through a lot of pain and brutality, but through it, you get to explore his past and his thought process and why he thinks, at least currently, it is okay to kill certain villains, depending. There's also a pretty major appearance by another of Tynion's Batman creations, which is Punchline. She is in this book a decent little bit. In a way, you'll have to read to find out what I mean by that. And I'd also like to say, so this does not have any first appearances in it or anything like that, but it does end with the possibility of Clownhunter taking on a position from another major Batman character who might be one of the only ones who could really relate to how Clownhunter feels. So that's what I'll say. So if you just want a good story to show you Clownhunter's past and to look into why he does things the way he does, this is it. But it is a violent story. I'll say that. I was shocked about how much violence is in this.
Let's say he has a baseball bat with a batarang stuck to it, and he's not afraid to use it.
Yeah. So there you go. And it has this variant by Ofosu. So we're the fisheye lens variant there. And then we have the 1 in 25 Suyin variant, black and white variant, that we are selling for $25 to our customers.
Next up, I've got my DC book, issue 2 of Superman and the Authority. This book is, as a lot of Grant Morrison things it brings up a lot of questions, and it's a very, you've got to decode Grant Morrison's books, and in a fun way. They beg for a reread, and a deep dive into certain characters and everything, and this is no different. So we know in the current DC universe that something is happening with Superman, that his chess piece is going to be taken off the board, rather however that may be. This feels like it's happening before he goes, and he maybe at this point doesn't necessarily think that the Justice League is the best protectors. And it's an interesting idea that Superman, who'd be like, oh yeah, he's the leader of the Justice League. He sees them as they're doing too much internal squabbling. They're not getting things done. They may be creating more problems, and he wants to create a team that will actually do something. And so he tasked Manchester Black, who is not a good person. I mean, he would tell you that himself, to put together a team, which, we can tell is going to be the new Authority team. And in this one, we have Manchester Black reporting back to Superman about who has signed on for this team. And in a very cool way, Grant Morrison has this this through line story of Manchester Black talking to Superman. And in between, we see different characters that he's recruited and little mini stories about them by different artists. So you've got this one art style, and then when you turn the page, now we have a story about Steel, or Steel's daughter, Natasha Irons, I believe is her name. We get a whole little story about her fighting these monsters and stuff. Really cool. And then it goes back to Superman. We get another story with a different art style. And we're getting these mini things being here's why they were added to the team and what they do and everything. So really cool. And I'm still really interested to see what's up with Superman in this, because he's still in Action Comics, and he doesn't look like this. This Superman has the gray temples. He doesn't have the cape. He's just got the t-shirt. And so I have a feeling that Grant Morrison has a plan for revealing what's all going on in this. And it's really cool. I like this issue, but as a lot of things Grant Morrison writes, it's going to take all of the issues to finally look at it and see what is the big story and what was he trying to say with it. But individually, it's a lot of fun. The dialogue's a lot of fun. Manchester Black is kind of like Constantine, just doesn't care what he says. He'll say, he doesn't care if it's Superman or anybody else. He'll say whatever he wants to him. So really cool issue of Superman and the Authority. Then we have this really nice Trevor Hairsine variant where you see a lot of the team members on there as well.
Okay, so another very big one I think everybody's been waiting for and waiting to hear about, I certainly have, is Moon Knight #2.
Yes.
They did not send us or allow us to read an advanced copy of this, which I was upset about.
They knew you'd read it no matter what.
I read the Moon Knight #1 advanced, I guess maybe 3 weeks before release, and it was so good. So I had to wait an extra 3 weeks than everyone to read this one. So look at this cover. What is going on this cover? I mean, that is just a little glimpse of the insanity that is in Moon Knight's head, is what I think this is. That's my interpretation of this. But a great, crazy cover. The sort of cover it calls to people who want a character this chaotic in a comic book. That still, is told in a linear fashion. So this issue of Moon Knight it's a little bit more of a standalone story than the first issue. The first issue they set up the Midnight mission he's on. They introduced that new character who seems like it's going to be a very important new character. Mm-hmm. So this issue doesn't have any major first appearance of anyone who I think is going to stick around. This is more of the Midnight mission is his thing. Well, what does he do? Mm-hmm. What is let's have Moon Knight go on one adventure that by the end of it is over. Mm-hmm. And so somebody comes to his Midnight mission. There is something terrible and supernatural going on. Moon Knight goes to check it out, Of course, he's up against a very powerful foe. But what is cool is that we get to see, without a doubt, there's actually a nice two-page spread of how powerful Moon Knight still is. You know, I think it's been a while since we've gotten to see his personal sort of. This is some of the power he can unleash on you
Mm-hmm.
with what's inside of his head and everything he's been through. So you get to see that. That was probably my favorite part of this, which I thought was really, really cool. Um, Even without Khonshu on his side anymore. You know, he's still head priest of Khonshu,
Mm-hmm.
but, you know, his god has kind of abandoned him,
Mm-hmm.
but did not leave him powerless. And that was probably the best part of this. Other than that, it's just a solid read. It was a solid, you know, hey, there's a problem. The hero's up against a villain or villains. They have to deal with it, and by the end, there's a resolution. You need that sometime. I think a lot of comics are in the rut of six issue arcs,
Yeah,
and we don't have enough of those one issue comics to learn about them, where the writer is forced to tell a whole story in one comic.
that ends up being some of the best issues where people can look
Yeah.
back and be like, that that singular story is big.
So I liked it for that. It has some Twilight Zone vibes to it as well, if you read it. I'm not giving away anything about the villain or villains, anything about what the actual, like, scary parts are, because I'd rather you guys find out for yourself. But so that's my relatively spoiler-free review. I would also like to say that the art in Moon Knight has been really good. So this was one of the other books I picked this week. This is one of the other four books that I thought was sort of neck and neck for my favorite book. So we got some variants to show. Here is the NetEase variant, sort of the game variant, which, I mean, some great art on these.
Yeah.
And then we have the Peach Momoko variant. Black and white works very good for Moon Knight.
Yes.
He's kind of built for that. And then we have the 1 in 25 Finch variant we're selling to our customers for $20. Yep, that is it.
Awesome. I mean, Moon Knight #1 here sold out
Yeah.
so fast, and we ordered a lot of
We
it.
did.
We did not expect it to be.
Well, because I read the advance copy and
Yeah.
I like doubled our order based on how good it was, and it still wasn't enough.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that, and I'm excited to see what plans Marvel has with Moon Knight. Now that they're seeing this reaction of like, man, people are hungry for this. So, really cool. My next one is, you can see I've actually got 3 Star Wars books here, so I'll kind of lump them all together. But first off is Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters #3. This is the actual 5-part event book, issue #3. And this one, as you can see on the cover, has Vader and Boba Fett. So I don't want to spoil too much. Those two do not necessarily have a throwdown. Now there is a lot of action in this, not necessarily between those two, but we do get maybe some Boba Fett versus Chewbacca, which is a pretty cool fight. Especially when one of them has a flamethrower and one is made of hair.
That's the first thing I thought. I was like, poor Chewie with his flammable hair.
Yeah. Some comments are made like, oh, it smells like burned hair in here and stuff.
Maybe his fur's an insulator. Maybe it's more like asbestos.
Yeah, I was wondering if
Just
it was
doesn't get cancer.
like Gossamer from the Looney Tunes, where all his hair burns up and he's just like 2 feet sitting there and 2 like blinking eyes. But no, this issue is really cool. So we have the auction going on for Han Solo. The end of the last issue had Vader walking in the door, basically being like, I'm shutting this party down. That's mine. Y'all get out of here. This picks up right there. And of course, Vader comes in saying, Han's mine. And the Hutts aren't too happy about it. They said, we just spent like 1 million credits for this. Are you going to reimburse us? Or how's it going to work? And you get to see in this, Vader basically exert his power over all the different people there. And it's really cool to see. But the other person here is Kira, um, from Solo and all of that, who is now the head of Crimson Dawn. Her interaction with Vader, which is very interesting, and what try not to give anything away.
I know you showed me this part. This
Yeah.
part's really cool.
So, if you know, especially if you've seen Solo, the end of that, you learn that Crimson Dawn, the big organization that's been in hiding for a long time, that's now back, was headed by Darth Maul. I'll say that, and Kira was also a part of this. She may have got some tips and tricks from Maul. So you'll have to read this to see one of the coolest scenes I've seen in a Star Wars comic in a while in this. But it looks like we are, the story is now shifting to, well, Luke is, as you'll see in this, Luke has also, he's coming to this thing, and it looks like there's going to be a lot more going on than just a bidding for Han. So, my ramblings aside, very good issue. Me trying to step all the cool stuff that happens in this issue. But another thing I want to do on here is inform you, because I feel like this is always a hard thing, especially in a week where you've got 2 books that came out that have War of the Bounty Hunters titled on it. Which one do you read first?
Right.
That's always, like, that's a really hard thing. And sometimes you could really spoil something
Yep.
if you read the wrong book. And these don't have, like, numbers on them. So I will say, these actually happen simultaneously. But Star Wars goes 5 minutes further. So I believe you do need to read War of the Bounty Hunters number 3 and then read Star Wars. Also because of some of the stuff that happens at the end of this issue sets you up for what is happening in this one. So read War of the Bounty Hunters number 3 before you read Star Wars. What is it? Issue 16. And you'll be happy you did, because that extra 5 minutes that Star Wars takes is very telling for what will probably be the next issue of War of the Bounty Hunters. So super nice variants for these. Of course, we have the David Nakayama, the Bounty variant, that one for Boba Fett. We have the action figure variant with Dengar. We have the 1 in 25 Cassidy trading card variant. These have been really cool, that we are selling for $25. Then we have the Star Wars variants, which we also have the David Nakayama variant. And we have the Lucasfilm 50th anniversary variant, this time with Phantom Menace on there. Really cool. And just real quick, wanted to say what also came out, we have Star Wars Adventures. This is number 8. Really cool. And I want to show that one because it has this really awesome Count Dooku variant.
You got a pile of variant. Andy has so many variants over here. They're slid. The variant mountain has slid.
We also have Star Wars High Republic Adventures. And this really awesome 1 in 10 Kairazes variant for that we are selling for $20. So we could make a whole show just on Star Wars books, but check out the other ones too. There's some really cool stuff like in the High Republic Adventures and everything, as I try to keep this mountain from crashing and crushing me.
Let me ask you, do you happen off the top of your head who's wanted for the most money on the wanted poster so far?
I've had long discussions about this because
I figured.
Because the prices are the same on all of them. It's $50,000, and I don't think that's right. I think some people should be more than others.
Yeah.
I think Han maybe should be the top because the whole thing's about him. But then Jabba put out a hit on Boba Fett, so that one should be really high. So I went as far as to cross-reference with A New Hope and various other times in the movies where they've talked about how much credits something it cost.
Right.
And like in A New Hope, to get passage to Alderaan, uh, that Obi-Wan and Luke get from Han, it's 17,000 credits. I'm like, then that doesn't seem very high
Right,
for a
15,000.
bounty. But anyways, discuss with me more in the comments about how much you think a bounty should be on these various different characters.
Okay, so my third choice for my favorite book this week, and yes, I have four of them. I'm sorry, it was neck and neck. I could not pick this week. Is Nightwing number 83. So first off, let's take a look at that cover. You got it. He's going from Nightwing at the top all the way down to the bottom, where he becomes just a regular public speaker. A public speaker with a big idea I'm going to talk a little bit about. So another great Redondo cover. I like these action covers he's been doing. I think they're really, really awesome. Very well considered, and just gives you something more to look at than just the one image. It seems like multiple images, like a cross between the the comic inside and what a cover would be.
Yeah, where you could read the cover
Yeah.
and follow it.
So this issue begins right at the end of last issue, where Dick Grayson was talking with Melinda Zuko. So who is Melinda Zuko? I could talk about this because this is the last few issues. Melinda Zuko is many things. She is the newest mayor of Bloodhaven. She is working for the Marconi crime family. And maybe the more important features are she claims to be Dick Grayson's sister that he never knew about. And just lately, as in last issue, she saw him with and without his mask, and now they're talking. So yes, you want to read the end of this conversation they have. I mean, it could more things be getting revealed at
she
one
has to go
point.
point by point, like, let's talk about all of these things that's between us.
You know, funny enough, now that I think about it, they do bring up all of that. And they're under duress, too, because Nightwing was seen sneaking into her place by some goons that work for the Marconi. So they have very little time to talk. The conversation has some twists to it that are really interesting. The big thing is, it's not like just because somebody in a comic says something, it makes it true. It's hard to know if we can trust his character or not yet. So it's not all resolved. It's a lot of cool mystery, good writing going on in Nightwing. I don't think we've ever had more people on Nightwing.
Yeah.
And, so once again, this is one of my favorite comics of the week. Always a lot happening in it. So that happens in it. What else happens? Nightwing finally decides, or rather I should say Dick Grayson, because he does this as Dick Grayson. Alfred left him in his will a lot of money. We're talking about more than a few million.
Mm-hmm.
It's made Dick Grayson the richest person in Bloodhaven. Well, he's been talking for the last few issues about what should he do with this money. Before he finalizes his decision, in this issue, you get to see the different other superheroes and groups and friends from his past that he goes to ask advice from. I thought that was really cool. A very good touch. He didn't just decide on his own. I'm not saying you hear everything, but you definitely get to see who he goes to. One person he goes to that I got to mention, because this is something to do with his book as well, is he does talk to Superman. I'm not going to say what gets said, other than to say at the end of the conversation, Superman actually reveals a little nugget, just a little bit, of what's to come for him, for Superman, more than he has in Action Comics or Superman. I thought that was interesting. It's like, wow, we're getting a little more in Nightwing. I'm not saying it reveals what happens, but it's just more of like a nod to it, more of a he knows something is happening for sure.
And who bet? Just thinking, if you had any problem and you could contact Superman, he'd probably get so tired of me being like, I got this dilemma, Superman. I need you to carefully talk me through it and everything. But I think that's cool that even a character like Nightwing, who you don't associate with Superman, it's like they're all in the same world and they all generally know each other. Yeah. That's a really cool addition.
So, in the end, though, of this issue, you will get to see what Dick Grayson tells the city of Bloodhaven he's going to do with this money. And it is something in Alfred's honor, which I think is great. Tom King, he killed off Alfred in Batman, and it's come up a lot. But I feel like in Nightwing, it's been handled the best as far as Dick Grayson's relationship with Alfred and how important Alfred was as a character.
Mm-hmm.
So I miss him. And so he does something with this money in Alfred's honor. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it pans out because it's not just one thing, it's a plan. He's got a plan. Now, I've seen some other comic news sites have been reporting about this. That's how big it is,
Yeah.
what he's going to do with this money. And a lot of them have been labeling it. That's what I'll say. A lot of them have been putting terms to what he's doing with it. I'm just going to say it's a philanthropic effort and it takes a big heart.
Mm.
And upon that, I will also mention, speaking of hearts, there is an appearance by Heartless in this. Yeah, Heartless is not forgotten about. Heartless makes an appearance in this again, too. Didn't want anyone to forget about him. So there is the variant. This is the Dunbar variant. Another character that nobody should forget about, Nightwing. So another great issue. Really enjoying that series.
I feel like that Tom Taylor with that is doing such a good job, and not even just in your face talking about it, but the differences between Nightwing and Batman, where Batman is so closed off.
See, it's funny you bring that
and
up.
And Nightwing...
You're guessing more things that might be in this book.
Oh, okay. But even, like, I mean, anyone could guess, with Nightwing having so much money, what he chooses to do with his money, as opposed to what Batman would have done with his money.
There's a bit of a discussion, at least with Nightwing in his head and with somebody else, about the difference between him and Batman and Bruce Wayne, and even their differences of what to do with a lot of money. So,
see, I think that is such an interesting thing, and sets, also kind of shows that Dick Grayson was raised by Alfred, and maybe not as much as Bruce Wayne. I don't know. I could just guess the whole book. I'll stop, but those are all things I would want to read about. So, the next book is did not know what to expect going into it. Once I was reading, I kind of remember a little bit of the solicitation when we talked about it. But man, this is talk about one that I didn't know what was coming, didn't know what would be on the next page, and that is Second Chances. This is a new book from Image. I want to make sure it's Image because it feels even more indie than Image in a weird way. Mostly, one, because the entire book is black and white. Yeah, I know they did Walking Dead, that was black and white, but this is... this almost reminds me more of a Top Cow book.
Yeah, you showed me even the ads. Like, we're not saying fake ads written for the book, but even the ads that was paid in the book were in black and white.
Yeah, like there's an ad for Ice Cream Man, and it's in black and white. So you can tell, like, this was published in black and white, all the pages, it was absolute black and not colored black. People who know about printing know what that means. So this follows a character. Now, I looked back through there because I was like, surely they said his name. I don't think they said his name. Who has a company called Second Chances. And with this company, he is essentially the person you go to when you want to fake your death and start a new life. So it's funny because I've been watching Breaking Bad again, and that kind of idea comes up about who's the guy you go to where who's going to push the car off the bridge and make sure that there's a
skeleton
or something. Yeah. But what's interesting about this character is he doesn't do it for criminals. He does it for people who legitimately need to start over, which I guess you could think of maybe somebody who's in that position. It definitely limits the number of people when you cut out criminal reasons why you need to start over.
Right.
But a lot of this is about him, and not how he does it, but you kind of see him getting a call and be like, okay, meet me here, all of that kind of stuff. Really interesting setup for that. But also, there may be some supernatural elements going on as well, which kind of took me by surprise because you've got this already pretty interesting story about who does this kind of thing and stuff, but some elements are brought in, some weird visuals are seen, but when that happens, we cut into a different story about a girl named Emma who works for a horrible boss. she's like, I'm going to, turn in my notice tomorrow. I'm done with this. Also, it seems like maybe she's also not the best person because she likes to sneak into his office after he leaves and like get on his computer and read his emails and stuff. And she talks about like all the weird stuff that she finds there. But this time when she does it, she finds a note that's actually written to her, not from her boss, but from someone else, um, disclosing some information about her family. It feels like a completely separate story, not related to the first, until we get to Act 3 in this, where the stories converge and some more odd elements are brought in that you'll have to read to find out. So I really enjoyed this, but the whole time I'm like, I don't know where this is going. I don't know. I can't guess at who these characters really are. Is there more to them than meets the eye? So I'll definitely have to read the next issue to find out. But good first issue, a very indie feeling book, almost like a book that you would get on like Kickstarter or something from. The creators are Ricky Mammon and Max Bertolini, and I don't recognize the names. This feels new across the board. So if you don't mind reading a black and white comic, it's the tones and stuff are done really well. Where easy to follow, things aren't like too in the shadows where you can't tell who's talking. I think people will like this if you give it a chance because story is really cool.
All right, and just the one cover?
Just the one cover.
Okay.
Pretty amazing with that too.
So I'm going to go over an indie book as well. From Dark Horse, out is Killer Queens #1.
About that song from the band Queen.
I mean, surely we're all thinking that in our head.
It popped in my mind immediately.
So the title of this comic gives a great hint as to the profession of our main characters and possibly their sexual inclinations. You can see two of them on the bottom there, the two on the cover. You see their faces on the bottom, and then a third character who you meet. So this is about Alex and Max, who are ex-assassins on the run. Why are they They're not exactly ex-assassins. They're assassins who have quit their job. So they're still assassins. They just wouldn't go through with the job because it was too cruel. They were asked to kill some certain people who they didn't want to kill. And so they stole their boss's ship, and they're on the run. And even during all this action, they're assassins in a stolen spaceship on the run. They still have time to go on a double date. So yes, this is an action sci-fi comedy. That's what this book is. All the elements are there. There is a space chase. I mean, it's a sort of book where they end up on a planet, for instance, where there's only women on the planet. And some biological questions are asked about how can this work for long periods of time, but in a comedic way.
Yeah.
So I think it's for people who like, Rocky Horror Picture Show, or, that's more horror comedy with a side of sci-fi. This is definitely more sci-fi.
You can tell from the cover with the space, kind of, is it like a little 1950s?
It definitely has the 50s qualities. Retro space, absolutely. So that's about what I can say as far as who this comic is going to appeal to. Not as punny as Spaceballs, I would say. That's why I think I leaned a little more into Rocky Horror, a little more bizarre, a little more witty banter dialogue.
Okay, yeah.
Characters not all taking themselves too seriously, even though the situation is serious.
Less like bumper stickers on spaceships that say
yeah,
things.
As great as all that is. I'm a big Spaceballs fan, and we just have, there's two variants. We only have the one that was still in stock. This is the Jen Bartel variant, which I think is done very well. But I mean, Bartel always does some really good variants.
I love how Bartel's art, like, she's been around for a while, and just now people are
picking up steam.
Really picking up on her and I mean, completely deserves it. Bartel's art is incredible.
I really liked all the Women's History Month
Oh
books that she did.
yeah, those were
That
great.
full set looks really good together.
Mm-hmm. So next up, we're catching up on a book that I guess we haven't really tuned into for a while, but I wanted to talk about Batman Catwoman. This is number, I didn't even write down the number. This is number 6, so I believe we're halfway through the series. I
believe you're right.
I think it's 12
issue maxi series.
I've been reading this and really enjoying it. This is, of course, from Tom King. This was kind of his natural continuation of his run of Batman, just taking place in this separate title. And it goes between 3 different timelines, kind of a I don't know if it's like past, present, and future, but it's kind of like present, future, and
even more in the
future. But in this issue is really cool because one of the big selling points of this was Phantasm. Phantasm created in the animated movie Mask of the Phantasm, finally in comics, and this one we finally get our showdown between Batman and Phantasm, which super cool. But what is interesting is it's almost like the movie Mask of the Phantasm is in continuity with what's currently going on because they fought before and Batman knows who she is and her reasons for doing this. But that is one of the reasons you'll want to pick this up because it's really cool to see them fight it out in a comic. The next thing is in the future, not a spoiler now, we're 6 issues in, that Batman has died pretty early on in this. And Batman and Catwoman have had their daughter, Helena Wayne. And we saw, I don't remember if it was issue 1 or 2, that possibly Catwoman killed Joker because of everything. She's like, I'm finally just going to take him out. And this one, Helena confronts Selina about, did you kill Joker? It's a very interesting scene. It's a very odd dinner conversation. But what is interesting in this, too, is instead of giving her an answer, Selina decides to go out on patrol with her daughter. Now, Catwoman is older, but she still rocks her Catwoman outfit. This time she goes back to her classic purple outfit with the green cape. You have to see it. It's great.
You showed me that.
And she is still as deadly as ever. And that is really cool. And then finally, we have, I guess it would be kind of the furthest in the past. I'm not sure. And it is Christmas, and Catwoman is at her house, but so is Joker, and they are decorating a Christmas tree together. And if you can imagine how bizarre that is, and how fun, and the banter and everything, you'll have to read it and see. But just a reminder, the series has continued to be really fun. I'm wondering if they're going to put out like maybe a volume 1 of it pretty soon, now that we're 6 issues in,
right? Or
if they're going to wait till the entire series is completed. But if you get the chance to read the whole thing, I think you'll really like it. Each issue is one of, the first page has an advent calendar where you're counting down the days till Christmas, and let's just say now it's starting to get a little Jokerized on it, which is really cool. So we have some really nice variants for it as well. Jim Lee has been doing variants for each issue. So we have the Jim Lee variant, Batman Catwoman Unmasked, and then we have the Travis Charest variant with Batman Catwoman facing off against Phantasm.
All right, so I read Miles Morales Spider-Man Annual Number 1. This is an Infinite Destinies tie-in. But I think there's a few noteworthy things about this. The first is, look who's on the cover with Miles. It's a character named Amulet. More on him in a second. Notice the costume Miles is wearing. It is not the new costume that was just revealed. So that means that this takes place prior to Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 29. That's how I'm able to place when this happens. So, not that it's that important, just got to nerd over all that stuff. So, Amulet, I believe this is the first appearance of Amulet outside of a Ms. Marvel comic.
Yeah.
Which is really cool because Let me tell you about Amulet, and I think you'll see why. This is a character that I hope they blow up even more. Amulet's first appearance was in Ms. Marvel issue number 13. He has an amulet, obviously, and it makes it where he has like this awesome armor and he's really strong and tough and powerful. But more than that, you can come up with powers easy. To me, I like backstory.
Mm-hmm.
So Amulet's backstory is that he has inherited this ancient quest. Okay, so he himself is not ancient. He's fairly young. He has a family he cares about, pretty important in his life. But he has inherited this ancient quest where there are 1,000 cursed artifacts out in the world. They're all over the place. And it is his job to collect these artifacts up because the artifacts create monsters. I just think that's a
great premise.
Yeah, exactly. That gives him a plot. That gives him something to do. So in this, he teams up with Miles Morales. This is more of a Miles team up with him than vice versa. Meaning this has more to do with Amulet and his quest. So I think it's neat. It's like I've been reading all the Miles stuff. I knew a bit about Amulet, but I don't think I've read all the issues he was in with Ms. Marvel. So it took me, somebody who likes Miles, and put me into sort of Amulet's world.
Yeah.
And I would say that I can see Marvel giving him a miniseries at some point. So that's pretty cool. Now the backup story is called what is it? It's the one with Nick Fury.
Nick Fury and
Infinite Fury is what they're calling it. So yeah, we have Infinite Destinies and the backup story Infinite Fury. So all these annuals are supposed to link together to show you what is going on with certain Infinity Gems right now. I've put it out. I think there's 1 or 2 issues. It was pretty hazy if they even had a gem or anyone who linked with it in there. But they always had the backup story where Nick Fury is trying to find the gems because they're dangerous. We've also seen, I think in the last one, Nighthawk is looking for them. Well, in this one, this story with Nick Fury has to do with the Infinity Stones plotline. So the Miles one doesn't, but the Nick Fury one does. And we get to find out something that directly links in with Black Cat number 8, which is the previous issue, and number 9, which I'll be reviewing later. So if you are following the Infinite Stones thing, or you've liked Black Cat, I would read this issue first. It links in. So
now, is there a chance that is Amulet's amulet related to the stones?
No,
okay.
It is not related to the stones, no. But something in the Fury part is. I just can't say because if you read this and you read Black Cat 8 and 9, it all kinds of goes together. You don't have to read them all, but they're building towards something with all these Infinity Stones. I'll talk more on that in Black Cat because that has a lot more to do with her.
Yeah.
Since she's been hired to gather the stones. So we have some variants here. We have, or just the one. We're just showing off the Ron Lim variant. He's been doing a variant for each and every one of these Infinite Destiny books, which I've enjoyed. Once again, it's the... I was telling Andy, there are a lot of weird plotline threads running together right now. I like to guess storylines, and there's some stuff I'm having trouble guessing that it seems like the writers are really talking about and really planning something big, but nobody's really paying attention except for me.
Yeah, because it's like bouncing over such weird, disconnected series that usually don't have anything to do with each other, but they're weaving if they put this out in like a collected edition, it's going to be big.
I'm sure that when they get to whatever event they're going to do with the Infinity Stones, it'll probably all start with a big 1-page, 3-paragraph thing to catch everybody up.
Yeah.
But this is my job and this is my passion, so I'm trying to figure it all out as it goes. So
cool. So wanted to talk about Radiant Black, and this is issue number 7. This is the start of our next story arc, and it really kicks off with a bang. This is one of my favorite books coming out right now. Kyle Higgins has created a book that is like a cross between Invincible and Power Rangers, but with its own unique flavor. So at the end of the last one, well, actually 2 issues ago, because the last one was kind of a one-shot about the Radiant Red, all these new characters with similar costumes, kind of all crashed together, and we learn there's a bigger story at hand. This one is a all-out action issue where your classic like learning your powers, learning your enemies, you know, barely escaping something because you just learned you got this new power. Really cool issue. And what I also wanted to mention with it is Image does the great thing where if you get volume 1 that came out this week, you can read this and immediately get this and jump right into it. Great catch up. This is a big trade. It has all of the variant covers in it, as well as issue 1 through 6, for only $9.99.
Yeah, that's so cool. I wish the other publishers would do it. Image has been doing it for a while too. So the timing, the good pricing.
Yeah, great introductory pricing. So grab Radiant Black Volume 1 and then jump right into issue 7 because, I mean, this series just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So much fun. It's even funny how there's some nods to Kyle Higgins knows. He was the writer of Power Rangers. This definitely has Power Rangers flair. Someone in this kind of even calls that out. And I think it's really fun. Like, this is one of those great series of kind of younger characters getting powers and fumbling their way through them, a la classic Peter Parker with Spider-Man or Invincible or whatever. So really great issue of this. I won't give too much away, but I just want to let y'all know that you can get Volume 1 tomorrow and issue 7 and get all caught up. We also have the variant. This one is by Watanabe.
All right. I read Flash issue number 773. So Wally West, he is done bouncing around time. That ended with last issue. This one continues right from the end of the previous issue, where Heatwave seems to have just gone crazy, and he attacked a hospital, setting it on fire. So it begins right from after Flash sort of dealt with him. And at the same time, more in this issue, Wally West has gotten a job working at Mr. Terrific's corporation. This issue shows his first day on the job. What is it like? What are his other coworkers like? What problems does he have to solve? They don't know that Wally West is, a Flash or with Speed Force, and he is trying to hide that. So there's some of that this issue too. But of course, what would his day be like unless it were interrupted by Heatwave doing more terrible things? Yeah. Well, I will say the Heatwave thing, it doesn't seem like they're setting him up to be the big bad over a million issues. It was just a little while. By the end of this issue, Flash has to figure out what's snapped in him, what is going on, because he reformed a while ago. Mm-hmm. So by the end of this issue, you will get that resolution. However, there is almost like a post-credit scene where there is more that's going to happen with Heatwave, but possibly not in this book.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's what I can say without revealing too much otherwise. So, in fact, I think that's all I can really say about the book in general. That's the sort of catch you up, tell you a little bit about what this issue is about. So here is the variant. This is the Corona variant. All the fire on it you need.
Cool. So the next one I'm going to talk about is one I need everybody's help on. So this is Elric, the Dreaming City, #1. I am only passively familiar with Elric just from, I've seen the novels, I've seen all of that. I loosely know, you even talked about on one of our shows, like, it's kind of the anti-Lord of the Rings.
He's the inverse of Conan.
Of Conan, yeah. But, so this is the first time that his series is being done in chronological order. Now, going into it, I was like, oh, cool, so this will be a great place to start. This one starts with a recap of things that have happened. So apparently, deep diving into the original Elric novels and lore and everything, all the books were written out of order. And I believe when they say chronological order, it is chronologically the order that, not in story, but how the books were released.
Okay.
So even though I was starting to read this and I was confused because there's the inside cover is a full, like, here's what's been going on with Elric, and I was like, did I miss something? Was there a previous series or something? No, this is a new number one, but they want to kind of release it in the way that people who originally read the novels read it.
So it's like Star Wars. It starts with episode 4. You got to read the text as
Exactly.
it scrolls
Yeah.
down.
See, now that you say that, it completely makes sense to me.
There you go.
But when I started to read this one, I got detoured with reading about this one and reading about the whole Elric thing and how it's written and all of that. So if you understand this, if you know what this is referring to or why it was written out of order, let us know, because I think that's a super interesting idea, and I don't mind it. I kind of like, it's almost like when King Conan came out, and yeah, you know a little bit about Conan's origin, but this takes place another time, and a lot of stuff has happened. We don't know how he became king. He's here now. So, but the art in this is really awesome. There's some Cthulhu type Lovecraftian mythos monsters in this that I can't wait to read about. This inspired me to go on, and I'm now like looking up the novels. I want to read those. So if you're also interested in this, and you can go on this journey with me, finding out all about this property that I've never read, but I'm excited to. Plus, we've got this A cover by Mike Mignola.
Yep.
Doing an A cover, not even a variant, the A cover. And apparently Mignola is a really big fan of Elric. Like, he doesn't do too many variant covers. He can now pick and choose what he does, but he's such a fan of this that he decided to do it. I actually asked Mike's best friend why he did this, and that's what he said. We also have some really nice variants for this. This is the Valentine Sesher variant. Really nice. And then we have the FOC variant. So this was kind of only available to see at the time of ordering. So stores probably didn't get too many of them. This is the Tello variant, which I believe that's Elric's long-lost wife. I'm not sure. I'm only a few paragraphs into the Wikipedia page.
So a few years back, Michael Moorcock's Elric, the property was optioned, and they were thinking movie, TV show. Nothing's happened with it yet. In fact, I think the last article I read from maybe a year ago said there were maybe a little too many similarities with some of the Lord of the Rings show that Amazon's making. So the property is still optioned, but last I read, they weren't going forward with it yet. But I'd always say when a new comic comes out of someone's pretty telling.
Yeah.
That they're at least poking around, seeing who still cares.
Yeah.
So
I almost get the feeling less of a Lord of the Rings or whatever. With the success of a show like The Witcher, I feel like it has more of that vibe.
You know what? It was The Witcher that said in the article. It wasn't Lord of the Rings. You're right. That's funny. Yeah. That's what it said.
But I guess they're probably like, oh, the main character has white hair and he's depressed. But I think I could see room now for this in a TV show or movie or whatever, because this is a really cool universe I'm excited to explore. But yep.
All right, next one I'm going to talk about is Nocterra, issue number 6. So take a look at that cover. A scary cover by Tony Daniel with our main character Val. It looks like her face shield that sends the light out and killing the dark people or darkness creatures and scaring people away. Looks like it's busted up pretty bad. So I thought this was a very cool, just close up, makes you wonder what's going on in it cover. So there has been some big news and rumors over the weekend about Nocterra. Certain sites are claiming, or at least one site is claiming that Nocterra, there's about to be a big announcement that is going to send at least the issue number 1's their value up. I've enjoyed this series a lot, and from I think the first issue, I said this looks like it was written to be turned into a show. I get a lot of Walking Dead vibe off of
Mm-hmm.
this, from the shadow demons they all have to run from, just to sort of the pacing and how they meet new characters every issue or two to keep enough of them around that you can keep killing them off and keep it interesting. I mean, I hate to look at it so harshly, but
Yeah.
if you're going to do something that's thrilling in that you don't know who's going to die away, you've got to do that. You got to
Mm-hmm.
build up your cast to then cut your cast down over and over again. It makes people really care and really feel scared for their
Yeah.
favorites. So I'm not saying I know anything. I'm just saying there are big rumors a swirling about
Yeah.
Nocterra. We just try to, let everybody know information on this show. Now, getting to this issue, this appears to be the last part of the first story arc. We've been following Val. She's our main character, and her brother Emery, who has been infected up until lately. It seems like they might have at least partially cured him. And the little girl they've been transporting, her name is Bailey. They are now in the stronghold of Tiberius. Tiberius is the brother of Bailey's grandfather, and he is the one who claims that it was his scientific experiments that caused the world to turn this way, with all the shadow demon creatures and how everyone has to stay in the light, and if you're in the darkness for too long, you turn into a demon. So, what I'll say is a lot goes down in this because it's the end of the story arc. By the end of this issue, you're going to find out more of who you can trust amongst, I guess, the place where they're at and the characters there. You're going to find out who's in league with Bill. Bill, of course, is the pitch dark villain. He's the villain. He's literally an evil silhouette who very much enjoys killing. Scott Snyder, he's good at doing villains.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of scared of Scott Snyder. Like some of the stuff he writes, how much his villains enjoy being villains, make them much more effectively scary villains, and that is Bill here. This guy's like the Batman who laughs if DC wasn't editing your stuff down to be a little less scary.
Yeah.
So by the end, you're going to find out who might be in league with him. And by the very end, I believe there is an appearance of what will be a new major character. Not much of an appearance. So I don't have much to say on it. But there is an appearance of a new character. I think this character is going to be a big deal going on. Once again, just reminds me of how Kirkman used to have characters peppered into The Walking Dead who weren't just there for an issue. And you never knew. Some would stay around for, 50 issues. And others would, not last as long. So, but good ending to the first story arc. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes. We've got a few variants to show you. Here is the Lupacino variant. And then this next one, I can't say anything about this because it may have to do with the story. Here is the other variant by Tony Daniel himself. A lot of design went into this character standing here, I will say, though.
Wink, nod.
Yeah, and then we have the 1 in 25 Andolfo variant for $25 for our customers.
Cool. My next one is, oh no, why is this one so big? This is God of Tremors from Aftershock. They've been doing these one-shots that are like the deluxe magazine size, kind of like the DC Black Label size and everything. We've gotten a couple of them so far. I think Cullen Bunn has done one. This one's by Peter Milligan, and the artist is Peter Kowalski, who I know from, he did the art on the Bloodborne comic that was really cool. This is a very interesting issue. So it's just a one-shot. It's a self-contained story. It's kind of always, all these are kind of intended to only be this one and done. But it's set in ye olden times. It doesn't give a year, so that's as close as I can nail it to ye olden times.
Before or after electricity?
Hard
to tell.
Before, I think?
Okay.
I believe so. Now you have me questioning how ye olden times it is. I'd have to go back and look and see if anybody flipped the light switch.
Right.
But this is about a boy who suffers from tremors, and in this time, it was believed that he was demon possessed.
But it's like epileptic.
Yeah, yeah. With this, you have the same knowledge that they do, so it's not really given a name. You can kind of speculate. It's also hard in a comic to see that.
Right.
So you more see like what it causes around him and everything, but you definitely get the idea that it's not demon possession. It is really like a condition that they did not understand at the time, and they are trying to deal with it the ways they know how, given their information. But that doesn't stop his father from being a horrible person and trying to exorcise the demons every night in pretty terrible ways. And from this, the boy runs away into the woods just outside their house, where he stumbles upon a as a Lovecraft book would call it, a cyclopean statue, a very large, intimidating piece of masonry. That is it in the boy's head, or does he really hear that it says, serve me, I'm the god of Tremors? So this is a very interesting book where you don't quite know, is this the boy's version of like escapism? Is he creating this stuff to give himself power, or is this really happening? But you'll have to see. It is very like classic weird fiction. So King in Yellow, Great God Pan, like this very, also because of like the period it takes place in, but weird. You're given a situation, but you're given a twist with it too, that you kind of uncover as you read it. I really enjoyed this issue, this series, this one shot. I was going into it not knowing a whole lot about it. I kind of remember the solicitations that did talk about a boy with tremors, and people try to exorcise the demons out of him. But this goes even further, and it's a really cool pseudo horror tale with some weird fiction elements in it. So if you're a fan of like your classic pulp weird fiction stories, that kind of like 1920s, 1930s weird tales, I think you'd be all about this. So really cool, just one shot story, one and done. And I really like the ending of it. You'll have to read it to see. But this is, we have a 1 in 10 Gatos variant, where you get a little hint of that statue he finds out in the woods, which it's very big, very intimidating. We are selling this variant for $25. I'm guessing not a lot of places will probably have this, because it is an odd size. Not a lot of stores like carrying things that they don't know where to put. But this is one, I think this is the first one of these big Aftershock books that I've read. And I really liked this, and I thought it was a really cool story.
So my last of the 4 picks of the week, I did, my 4-way tie this week, goes to Black Cat number 9, a series I have been enjoying a lot more than I expected. I really am starting to like Black Cat. I mean, Black Cat's always been a cool side character, showing up, doing stuff with Spider-Man, but in her own right, they're really building her up in this. This is part 2 of Infinity Heist, where Black Cat has been hired by a mysterious benefactor to gather the Infinity Stones. I have more to say on that, but check out this cover. Last issue we saw something to do with Star. I'm not going to say the whole thing. One thing I will say is, if you're going to read this and you're also picking the Miles Morales annual up, read the Miles Morales annual first, because the backup story with Nick Fury has to do a little bit with this. You don't need to read it. If you're only picking up Black Cat 8, then what happens in the end will be enough. But if you want a little more than that, grab the Miles annual. Now check out this cover. Other than the fact it's really cool what the artist has done with the shapes and the colors, Black Cat has 3 different things she's doing with her mouth and tongue. So really subtle. I didn't
I
notice
didn't notice
this.
that.
Yeah, I'll have to show you close up. I didn't notice it until I actually had the comic in my hand, and it's just playful, and that's a lot of what's cool about this comic is Black Cat. She's got some real good wit and some good playfulness about her, even though she's really effective as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some other noteworthy things about this issue is Black Cat drops a big hint as to who her benefactor is who's looking for the Infinity Stones. So if all this is leading to some sort of event, and Marvel has said this is all leading to an event, I've been following these breadcrumbs, and I thought I knew who it was, but I read this issue, and a name comes up, and she doesn't deny it, but it wasn't the name I was thinking. I think she could still be lying though, or
Mm-hmm.
just protecting her actual benefactor. So we'll see. One of these shows, I'll tell you if I was right or wrong, but a name does come up. So in this issue, she has to convince Star to help her do something. Now, I don't know if you guys have read Star or if anybody out there has been reading any comics with Star in it. Star is stubborn. Star does
Mm-hmm.
not work well with others, doesn't get along well with others. There's the issue of, I forget which annual it was, but where Spider-Man's trying to help Star cope with her reality powers, and he calls her out on, look at these little things you do just to make life better for you. You have all this power, and you're so selfish.
Mm-hmm.
She's just not a very nice person. She's not a she's not a deep down like villain wants to kill people, but Star is very petty.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in that issue with Spider-Man, he called her out because I think she killed her old gym teacher who was mean to her. She used the reality gem to stuff him in a locker,
Mm.
and he's like, Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like this is so." It's neat seeing Black Cat interact, try to get Star to do something that she wants her to do because this is a character who doesn't want to do that and has tons of power. So another thing that keeps coming up in this book is that Black Cat doesn't have any powers other than she's a great thief and she's smart. And the thing one of my favorite parts is she also says that she has the power of style. That keeps coming up in this book. She calls other people out on their bad style, and she has, I mean, in a way, because she keeps putting up her own sense of style, but really it's her intelligence
Mm-hmm.
and it's the fact that everyone underestimates her that really makes her very effective in this book and done well. I've always liked these characters. Like they've done it with the Punisher in the past, where it's like you don't have powers in this universe where characters have huge powers. Well, here's Black Cat going up against in this book. She's dealing with Star, who has a reality gem, and there is a second person with the Infinity Stone that she has to deal with in the same book, and she's effective. I didn't find any of it to be far fetched.
Mm-hmm.
So fun read, really cool stuff going on, and it's just neat that they've drawn her into all of
Mm-hmm.
this. She even had a pretty important job back in the Null stuff,
Mm-hmm.
where she had to free Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
They've just been giving her a lot of cool stuff to do lately, which is really neat. Um, so yeah, this issue has a lot of intrigue as well because she has her plans, but of course, when you're going up against people with Infinity Stones, they were going to have their own plans as well. And past that, yeah, it was just it's a fun read. Anyone who's been reading it has been kind of saying the same thing. This is a really good book. So that is why it is my fourth and final pick of the week. And I have these variants to show you now. Here is the Lupicino. And we have the NetEase variant. But the last one, and this one I think is incredible.
This crazy.
This is the 1 in 20 Sway variant that we are selling to our customers for $35. I think this one is just going to heat up even more the more people see it. It's probably the best variant of the week.
I might have to buy that. I don't know. So, kind of up to the quick mention parts. I'm not going to go into big detail about it, but we do have Superman Red and Blue, number 6. I believe this is the final issue of Superman Red and Blue. And this has been a really fun series, like all of these kind of color combo issues they've been doing. But wanted to point out what a great cover. This is the Doc Shaner cover with kind of Superman inviting you into his big family with all the different characters and all the different versions of him. Really cool cover. This also has a short story with, I believe the cat's name is it Streaky, the super cat. We don't see any of the super pets enough, so that is a pretty cool thing. Also, wanted to show off, of course, you could tell who this is. We have a Kevin Eastman variant.
So I have an interpretation of this. I think Superman flew into the sun and has bounced off it.
Oh, like he knocked, and this is him flying backwards.
Yes, and I think it looks like a Terry Gilliam, where he does the cutouts for Monty Python, and he hit the sun, and he's just plummeting down,
and it has somebody mumbling like, "Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa,"
and a big foot's just gonna come down and hit them all, but in Kevin Eastman style.
Yeah. Oh, I'm all for that. I want to see that animated, but really cool. Final issue of that.
Okay, so I have one to talk about real quick, just to show off. So this is Dark Blood #1, second printing. So the #2 is not out yet. I read the #1. I just wanted people to know this issue sold out on the level. I know certain incentives of it are going for pretty good money. So if you want to collect everything related to this, you want to go in your store and see if they have the second print.
Okay. Also, this issue came out, and I just wanted to mention it because big fan of the character. We're actually all sold out of the A cover, but this is Truth and Justice #7, the final issue of Truth and Justice with Zatanna.
Zatanna cover.
And we got this awesome, I believe, Chew variant.
It looks like it. And all the little bunny rabbits.
All the little bunnies. So we don't get enough Zatanna. I think this is really cool. So definitely want to check this one out. Don't miss it, since this is issue 7. It's still a one-shot story that you'll be able to get and understand. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, so I want to inform you all. So the other week, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, Department of Truth #1, 6th and final printing came out, but there was a problem with the barcode or which ones they printed. So what had happened is they were saying that this one was the incentive variant, the 1 in 25, and that this one was the A cover. And so let's say you were a store and you ordered 25 of the A cover and 1 of the variant. You got 25 of these and you got 1 of these. Now, they didn't have us stores destroy them. They just sent out replacements. So now, let's say that same store would have gotten 25 of these and just 1, gotta be careful, don't want to damage anything, of these. Now you may say, okay, well, great, that makes even numbers for it all. Who cares? The difference is, by the barcode, they wrote something new on it. This says cover A, the original did not, and so it will be differentiated. Mm-hmm. And this one now says incentive cover. So, I mean, I can't tell you how many people are collecting this stuff at our store and how confused this is going to make people. That is why I'm giving you this information.
We got the email about this, and we all sat around interpreting it because it was so all over the place.
So let me try to show you. Let's see if you can see. It says standard cover. The other one says incentive cover. The originals did not say this on these ones, and that's how you will know. Now, as far as which ones are going to be worth more money, I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, obviously the incentives, the first incentive that was the messed up one, which would have been this one that doesn't say standard cover. And now I would say this 1 in 25 that, those are going to be the hot ones. Yeah. Just because there's less of them. And in fact, we're selling ours for $25 while supplies last.
So now you know when that guy in the parking lot of the mall is selling you comics out of the trunk, you know what to look for to make sure he's not duping you and selling you the different printing.
Yeah, I'll show you this one too. So let's see. Let me get it in a way that. So it says. So here's this one, and if you look at the back, it says incentive cover B. And that is the difference. And that's what you're looking for this week with the ones that just came out. Who knows? Maybe your store will be selling them and don't even know which ones are the incentive.
Yeah,
So,
who knows?
yeah.
That's what we have to go through with the comic stores. Those emails that are like, "Hey, sorry we messed up."
I mean, when you have hundreds of books dropping every single week, stuff like that's just going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then I have. This is Nice House on the Lake, number 2, second printing. So just like with the first printing, the edges of the book are slowly decaying or burning or something off. But a lot of these other printings of Nice House on the Lake, people are really going after. I think whenever you do a little something to change them, it feels better. Like, oh, I want to get that one now that it's, it looks a little bit different. So definitely want to check that out at your store if you either missed issue 2 or you're trying to get all of them. Did you have any more?
Nope. That is it. Go on if you have more.
Finally, the last thing I want to talk about.
This is a big one.
This is the
biggest one in my opinion.
Is Show Me History, Neil Armstrong, First Man on the Moon, illustrated by me.
Our very own Andy Dugan.
So, this just released. This is a hardcover graphic novel about Neil Armstrong. Let's see, here's the big splash page I did of the parade when they get back from the moon. And it's available now. I did all of the pencils and inks and assisted with the colors on it. So you may have remembered I also did Show Me History, Muhammad Ali, greatest of all time. So, yep, this one just came out. So ask your store for it or contact us. If you want a signed copy, I can sign it. But good for all ages. Really fun. Really, it's not like boring history. There's some goofy bits in it too with the narrator characters and astronauts and all of that. But great history, and it's illustrated by me, so buy 1,000 copies and make me the #1 artist of all time. That's not braggadocious, is it?
I mean, that's some good choices they're making. Muhammad Ali, Neil Armstrong.
Yep.
I mean, those are really important historical figures that I don't think we've heard their histories over and over again.
Yeah.
It's not just, it's Ben Franklin yet again.
And the kite.
Yeah.
It follows Neil Armstrong from when he was a kid. His first time, he learned to fly a plane when he was like 6 years old.
Show off.
I know. He was a super intelligent guy his entire life. But a lot of really cool stuff. A lot about Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins. So if you like space and history, or you've got a son or daughter, niece or nephew, or someone in your life you think they would like this, definitely check this out. It's available through us. It's available through Diamond, wherever fine books are sold. But if you want a signed copy, shoot us a message.
I will say, for those of you who ask your store about it, I have heard there have been Diamond delays on delivering them to comic shops.
Yep.
So, like, bookstores have more gotten theirs, but comic shops are a little behind. So you can probably still ask, and they can probably do a reorder before they ship. They should be this week, next week, week after.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I haven't heard, from the publisher or anything exactly when, like, the bulk of them are going to be out, but we were able to get our copies. Yes. So it means if you go looking for it, you should be able to get one.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is our show for this week. Thank you for joining us on our comic review show that we do weekly. This is us. I guess we're signing off until Friday when we come back to do Comics from the Future.
Yep.
It'll be me and Andy, and of course we'll be joined by Megan, and we'll be telling you all about what open order comics are available, giving you a chance to order as many as you want and be guaranteed that you will get those orders. So thanks for joining us, and if you're watching on YouTube and we have all been useful, please hit that subscribe button. We just keep creeping up those numbers. We're getting bigger and bigger, going to grow this channel and do even greater things together.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you, and have a great rest of your day.